friend. Welcome to Wild and Waking, a sacred space for the woman unraveling what no longer fits, remembering the truth that's always lived inside her, reclaiming her joy, her voice, her power, and rising fully, fiercely, and without apology. I'm your host, Emily Rushell, and together we'll explore what it means to live in alignment, lead with soul, and awaken a life of abundance, authenticity, and purpose. Let's begin. Hello, my dear friend, and welcome back to the Wild and Waking podcast. As we sit here in real time, I just got a text that we are hours away from being done with harvest. Hallelujah. My daughter is turning 2 this weekend, which is crazy. If you've been hanging out the podcast for a while, you probably remember the podcast episode where I announced that I was pregnant with her. And now she is 2. So we have much to celebrate here. I am coming off an incredible weekend where I spent at a retreat with my business coach, Katie, and we're going to share some reflections and lessons and takeaways from that today. And so in so many ways, life is so, so good. And also, it's really hard. It's really hard. I am at the point in this pregnancy. I'll be 26 weeks tomorrow, and I feel horrible all the time. And when people ask me, "Oh, how are you feeling?" I think they expect me to say, "Oh, I'm feeling great," or "I'm good," or like just put some sort of like high-pitched tone or smile or spin on this. And I'm like, pretty terrible, actually. And people really don't know what to do with that. And I was just talking about this on a call with someone earlier of what an incredible lesson this year has been in the willingness to sit in discomfort, both physically, mentally, emotionally, and to not pretend like everything is great. Now, I am a naturally incredibly optimistic person. You know, if you're talking about the glass half full, glass half empty, I am like the glass is overflowing. But looking back, I can also see so many times in my life where I pretended or acted as if everything was okay externally and internally because I didn't actually know how to sit in discomfort, in pain, and grief and sadness. And I think that this is a really important part in my journey because good girls have not been conditioned to feel those things and to experience their rage. We were taught to put a smile on our face, go back to your room and come out with a better attitude. And I'm so guilty of that. I am raising daughters who turn up their level of sass quite hard. And I have to catch myself in the way that I am policing their tone or the way that they're experiencing the world when it feels triggering or inconvenient to me. But this year has been uncomfortable. It's been hard, physically, mentally, emotionally hard, and also full of blessings, and also full of gratitude, and also really beautiful. Now, at the retreat I was at this past weekend, it was with my business coach, but it was not business focused at all. The intention behind it was sisterhood, spirituality, nurturance, creativity, presence. So it was very different in intentions than retreats I've gone to in the past or retreats I've hosted in the past. And it was beautiful, incredible, actually very reflective of something I'm creating for this spring. But even while we were there, I had this kind of feeling of grief and sadness of the capacity in which I was able to show up in this like very beautifully curated environment with these just heart-centered, soul-filled, deeply connected women. I felt like I was there as a different version of myself than I'm used to showing up, both with physical limitations and just like Right now, it feels really hard to string together coherent thoughts sometimes. And I just kept feeling, I guess, sadness, grief, disconnection around that of like, even in the moment, I was like, oh, I wish I could be here showing up in a different context as a different version of myself in who I normally am. I just don't feel like myself. And I reflected that back on the last day that we were there as we were doing some closing reflections. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, the way that you were here was absolutely perfect. First of all, we don't know anything different. And I'm like, and I know that makes me feel really sad. Like I feel so far removed from myself that it makes me sad that you don't know those pieces of me. But they were like, the pieces of you that are here or are really important too. Another part of the weekend is we had the opportunity, we had an incredibly talented photographer with us. And so I knew coming into the weekend that we were going to get to do some personal photo shoots, branding photo shoots, things like that, which is not unfamiliar to me. I would say most retreats I've been on have had a component of that to it. And, so I packed my normal clothes, basically anything that fits that like kind of fit the vibe. But in addition to that, our host and photographer also just like built this like whole dress up closet. Just reminded me of being a little girl in my basement with like all of these weird, fun dress up clothes. And so it went from like normally my branding photos, with the exception of like the creek shoot that I just did, are very full of color, life, energy, smiles, like laughter, big, bubbly happiness. And so, we got some of those on the day where the sun was shining. But there were also women at the retreat who their vibe is different than that. So they had brought kind of some different props. They had different visions in mind. And in watching them, I'm like, oh, like I kind of want to try that. Or, oh, I have this idea for me. And really, I don't even want to say stepped outside my comfort zone, but stepped into different types of imagery than I'm used to capturing. And oh my gosh, I'm going to cry. Looking back on just the sneak peeks we've gotten, it's like we captured the essence of this period of my life. More serious, less big, bubbly smiles, and more internal and stoic and mystical and deep, for lack of a better word. And as I was thinking about this over the last couple of days, one thing I said a lot last year in 2024 was that at the time I was going through this really deep period of transformation, this death portal I later learned to identify it with, of really meeting, sitting with, and befriending the depths of myself and exploring and unraveling and holding myself kind of through an evolution and through asking really hard questions and doing a lot of deconstructing and wrestling and, trying to figure things out without rushing them and just asking much bigger sets of questions. And so that feels like a really defining experience in 2024. And then, of course, early 2025 was kind of its own thing. But then this pregnancy, especially, I feel like I have been living in the depths of myself, which is a totally new experience. To be able to really sit in a season and know this is hard, this will not last forever, and I don't need to gaslight myself into saying that it's fine when it's not. I don't need to pretend to be anything other than this person who is moving through the world in this way right now. And let that be enough. And let people witness and hold me in that is unfamiliar, yet also in many ways a relief. But a lot of people don't know what to do with that. Like just as simple as, oh my gosh, how are you feeling? You're pregnant. You're so cute. And I'm like, terrible, actually. my whole body feels tingly and numb and fuzzy, and I can't go on walks like normal. And the other day I was trying to eat dinner and had to go take my buttered noodles to bed because I couldn't sit up. And every time I bring this up to a medical professional, they basically just tell me, that's weird. I'm doing all of the things I know how to do, but a lot of the things that I think would help make me throw up. And I'm really tired of doing that. We're like, oh, okay. And it just, for me, kind of shines a mirror on like how willing the average person is to sit in the discomfort of the hard times or the unknown or the unraveling when it's not always clear. So it is very cool to have these images that I'm sure I'll be sharing on social media that just feel different, but not me. The first night we were doing a like candlelit, beautiful ceremony that Katie had prepared. And we talked about what it means to be holy and redefining that for so many of us who grew up in the church with a very clearly defined, like holy is pure, the absence of anything bad, like the absence of shadow. It is light. It is pure. And to be holy is to be whole. And that includes the darkness and the shadows and the pieces of yourself that don't always shine, and the shame and the sadness and the grief and everything in between. And that is what this experience and the way I've been reflecting on it has really shown me of like what it means to be whole and to really deeply know, love, and trust not only your beautiful gifts and strengths and the light that you bring to the world, but also the willingness to hold darkness within yourself and for the people around you, and to remove the layers of shame that we have been taught to feel around the things that we or others perceive as less desirable, less attractive, less sexy, positive, flashy, whatever. I shared with the group for years, for as long as I can remember, especially as an adult, I have been described as joyful, bubbly, like sunshine in a bottle, like an energy drink in a person, right? Just like really big, positive, good energy, really strong, magnetic, positive ray of sunshine energy. And that is me. And also, the past couple of years have shown me that that is not only me. In many ways, as I really dug into therapy and other healing modalities, I understood how this big, bright, vibrant, confident personality in many ways was like defense mechanisms to protect myself, or walls or attributes that I had created and owned over time because I earned success through them. I earned approval through them. I earned the silent nod, the thumbs up, right? I moved through the world successfully in that way. It was palatable. It was admirable. It was complimented. And it is me, but in many ways, it was masks for the pain that I didn't know how to feel, the grief I didn't know how to move through, the rage I didn't allow myself to experience, the sadness that I didn't know how to hold, because it is fundamentally easier to choose, for me, to choose that bright, bubbly happiness than it was to sit in the shadows. I'd never been taught that before. And as I peeled back these layers of myself, specifically over the last year, and discovered rage, deep rage, discovered all of these things, and was willing to, like I said, sit with them and befriend them and not turn away from the mirror and let go of the shame or stories that I had attached to them and just achieve this place of neutrality of like, it just is, and let it be so. There's a moment in a podcast interview I did with Tracy Litt, early last year. And we were talking about vibrational states of being. And I asked the question of okay, if we're meant to, be high vibe, like what happens when we feel these things? And she's like, well, you can't just pretend like they don't exist. The way that you stay in a higher vibration state of being is to allow yourself the space to sit and move through them, experience them, acknowledge them, so that you may rise back up into these higher vibrational states. And I feel like that has been such alchemical work for me, is maintaining a high vibrational frequency by allowing myself to move through, experience, and sometimes sit in these feelings that often, if we experience them, hold us captive, and meet them from the place of neutrality and not shame. And I will never forget that conversation of a high vibe woman can feel it all and has the space and capacity to hold it all. It's not about pretending that these things don't exist. It's meeting them where they're at and letting them move through you. I know we've talked about this on the podcast before, but your babies, your toddlers, your young kids, their bodies know how to move through things. They have no masks, no filter. If they're mad, you know it. If they're upset about something, if they are sad, if they are grieving, you know it big and loud and proud. They have not yet been conditioned out of feeling. And that's really the work of what I've been coming home to. Okay, but in addition to this reflection and realization, guys, this weekend also just had one of the most beautiful lessons for me. Like I said, the whole thing was about community and nurturance and creativity. We went horseback riding, one of my favorite things. We're actually taking some of the land around our house out of production. I told Andrew when we moved to the farm, I will do so under the condition that we have horses someday. I just didn't want to deal with it when we had babies and toddlers. Joke's on us, we have babies and toddlers again. But we're taking some of the land out of production and looking to build a pond and a forest and an orchard and wildflowers, among many other things, and also have horses. I'm so excited. But we did this beautiful horseback ride through the woods of Virginia. The forest is where I belong. The forest is where I belong. I love being in the forest. We, on our way back from horseback riding, diverted off to get coffee. Hello, one of my favorite things. There was a Goodwill there. And I'm like, we are going into the thrift store. There is something meant for us there. So we charge in. We find this beautiful candle holder, this beautiful little vase, these lovely little chalices that we used all weekend long for everything. We came back. We had a full afternoon of just being creative together. That's what these photos were. It wasn't just oh, it's your turn. Let's go snap some brand photos and come back. It was this co-created process where we were taking turns and what if you put this on and what if you pose this way? We have music playing. We're all singing. We're laughing so hard. I'm peeing my pants all the time because I'm pregnant. But it was getting to create art together. We go out for this beautiful, luxurious dinner at this small little restaurant in a small town with this incredible chef. We come back, we go out to the woods with candles and have this beautiful time of reflection and integration. The next day we're doing more pictures, more art. We are creating, we made meals together. One night, it felt like a holiday. First of all, we made my favorite food: chicken, mashed potatoes, roasted carrots, roasted Brussels sprouts, and Katie got me gluten-free, really good bread. And then one of the women in our group had built this beautiful tablescape of candles and flowers and pomegranates, because we kind of had this whole theme around Persephone, right? We're going into the dark part of the year. That there's a whole mythology behind that. You can look it up. It was this whole ceremonial feast of embracing the darkness and celebrating this season, which was so fitting for me. And we probably had 20 or more candles on the table, and we just sat and talked and had deep, meaningful connection and conversation, which you guys know is my favorite thing, my favorite way to spend a day. And it felt like a holiday. And it was so beautiful and unhurried. The whole weekend was unhurried. Like we had a few things on the calendar of places, horseback riding, dinner reservations, things like that. But otherwise, it was like all just about being present and creative and there and together. And I had this realization of like, this is available to any one of us all the time. All the time. This sense of urgency, this sense of hustle, this sense of running around, the sense of choosing what's convenient or easy. Like we default to that so effortlessly. And also this amount of beauty and ease and intentionality is always available. Like I cannot tell you how many hours I have spent on my phone scrolling this year, especially in the time of just feeling like such trashy garbage. And I am like have to lay down, and oftentimes reading a book like made me feel really nauseous. And it's like social media is a gift, right? It brought you and I here together. But like scrolling for hours on end is not nurturing. It's not good for my brain. It's not good for my nervous system. It's not good for anything. Other than I have been getting really inspired by thrifting reels recently, but that's another story. Okay, that could be intentional. But it's like, why not create more of this in our day-to-day life? And I'm not saying all day, every day, but like, why not choose to pick up a paintbrush for an hour instead of procrastinating the podcast episode that I could have recorded 2 hours ago? Yes, I did that today. Why not gather some women in your local community to have a really beautiful dinner? It's one thing we talked about during the retreat is like virtual relationships are so powerful these days, right? My masterminds, the women that I have the honor of sitting with in coaching containers, you know, the coven that's coming together, these retreats that I go to and that I host, like so powerful. But like, there is something different about touching someone and looking them in the eyes in real life, over candlelight, especially. But I think we have this like heightened sense of like, I don't know who I would invite. Like, no one understands me. Does anyone else want this? And it's like, probably. Like, I don't think I'm the only person that would love to have a beautiful, luxurious dinner every once in a while. Right? And so I'm just bringing this realization and reminder that life is the occasion, right? Throughout the weekend, we had even planned like coordinating themes for outfits, right? For this beautiful dinner, like she had kind of sent us the vibes and like just being able to look around the table and being like, everyone's wearing something like a little fancy that maybe they wouldn't wear, especially for dinner at home with 3 kids. And just the intentionality of like being able to put on something that makes you feel beautiful and like you, and being in the space with other women doing the same. Like, I cannot express this enough, how much women, people in general, but let's be honest, we're all girls here except for my husband who's listening. Hi, I love you. Women are meant to do life together. We are meant to hold each other through the beauty and the pain and the heartache and the celebration. We were never meant to do this alone, but that's what we do. That's what I do. And I think about this all the time. And so, what would it look like for myself and for you to build more intentionality around nurturance, around what's nourishing, around beauty, around intentionality, around celebration, just for the sake of doing it because it feels good? And I don't mean this to be like, oh, here's one more thing to add to my to-do list. Like, I got enough going on. Yeah, I have 5 people living in my house. I have so much laundry and dishes, you guys. Yeah, I'm going to spend half my Saturday at basketball games this week. Yeah, it's crazy. It's always going to be crazy. There's never going to be a time where it's not crazy. Even after I'm not pregnant anymore. My body feels better. Then I'm going to have a baby and I'm going to have 4 kids. Right? But like, if we don't set the intention, life happens. And I know that you know that. This is not new information for either one of us. It's just like how you magically go 8 months without going on a date with your spouse. We are so guilty of that. And so I don't know that I have the magic solution for you, right? I don't have a calendar of how to do this. I don't have a checklist. But I would love if following this conversation, we commit to each other to do something beautiful, fun, joyful, creative, just for the sake of it, because life is the occasion. And we don't have to have it perfect. We don't have to have it perfect, and we don't have to do it all ourselves. That was the coolest thing about this dinner the other night. It's not like we were all in the other room and like Katie did all of this work and we came in, we're like, oh my God, this is so pretty. Thank you. Like we all did this together, starting with raw ingredients. This person cuts the Brussels sprouts. This person does the potatoes. This person setting the table. Me, I was so pregnant and tired. My job was just to sit. And I accepted that, right? But like, there was no element of expectation or perfection required. It was just like, come as you are to enjoy. That was like the theme of the whole weekend. Just come as you are in your pain, in your shame, in your grief, in your frustration, in your disconnection from self, and just be and let that be enough. And we will hold you in whatever season that you are in. There are people who will hold you. You don't have to figure it out all on your own. You don't have to be perfect. You get to sit in it and be held through it. But it comes from the willingness to say yes and to invite and to go first and to embrace the discomfort over what's easy, over what's convenient, over what is the status quo. I don't really know how to wrap this one up. Life is the occasion. I feel like that might be in the podcast episode title, but would love to continue this conversation with you. As always, please shoot me a DM, share this episode if something resonates. Like I said, I had already, a few weeks ago, I was on a call with Katie and she was leading us through a ceremony for the equinox. And I had this like whole download come through for this retreat that I want to host in the spring. I had it all jotted out, which came out of nowhere. I will have a baby with me. But so much of this weekend was like, oh my gosh, yes, I love this. I love this. I would do this. I can so see us going this way. So if a really beautiful, creative, nourishing, spiritual, togetherness related experience feels very fun for you, keep your eyes peeled for that, because I'm already working on putting it together. Really, I just need to nail down the like actual house. Pretty sure it's going to be in the St. Louis area because, again, I will be coming with a baby. But I'm so excited. I'm so excited about what's to come. And I'm so delighted by what is on the other side of the current season that I'm in, while also acknowledging that this is the season that I'm in. And there is goodness and there is beauty and there is blessings, even on the days that feel really hard. And I don't have to choose. I can smile, I can laugh, I can embrace the beauty and acknowledge the hard. And so can you. So until next time, I am so forever grateful for you. Hey friend, I hope this conversation sparked something real in you. Something that feels like truth, curiosity, or the courage to keep becoming. If this episode resonated, I'd love for you to share it. Take a screenshot, post it to your stories, or send it to one of your friends. You can always find me over on Instagram at Emily Rushel, where I love continuing these conversations and hearing your takeaways. Truly, your DMs are one of my favorite parts of podcasting, so don't be shy. I'd love to reflect and connect with you over there. I'm so grateful to be surrounded by a community of women who ask hard questions, sit in the discomfort of the unknown, blaze new paths forward, and ultimately come home to their wild and waking selves. See you next week.